So, with the Hunter x Hunter manga officially returning soon, which still just blows my mind that not only is Hunter x Hunter coming back, but we actually have daily updates from Togashi himself on Twitter, we live in some miraculous times. But anyways, I thought it would be interesting to take a look back at all of the story arcs that the manga has given us and rank them from my least favorite to what I think is the absolute best the story has to offer. But before I get into it, there's a couple of things to note. First of all, there are no bad story arcs in Hunter x Hunter, in my opinion. So where I rank them does not have anything to do with me disliking them, it's just that I like some more than I like others. And it's just my personal ranking, so don't take it as an objective end-all be-all list, it's just what I prefer. And if your list looks different than mine, that's just fine, and in fact, I encourage you to put your own list down below in the comments so that we can compare them. But also, depending on how you want to look at it, Hunter x Hunter has either 7 or 9 arcs, depending. And that might sound a little bit confusing, but let me explain. That's because there's technically 2 arcs that are so ridiculously short that to me, it doesn't even make sense to consider them as arcs. The first one is the Zoldyck family arc, where Gon and the others go to the Zoldyck compound to retrieve Killua, and it comprises about 6 total manga chapters. To me, 6 chapters is way too short to be considered an official arc, so I will be counting that segment as basically the prologue to the Heaven's Arena arc, since it leads into that arc anyway. Counting all the Zoldyck stuff in with Heaven's Arena, in my opinion. And the same thing is true with the Dark Continent exposition arc, because it's only a total of 9 chapters, and it's really only exposition and setup for what's going on in the manga right now with the Succession War, so again, I'm counting those 9 chapters within the Succession War. So that leaves 7 arcs total. The Hunter Exam, Heaven's Arena, York New City, Greed Island, Chimera Ant, Election, and Succession War. So that is what I'm going with, so I hope you're all cool with that, and if not, well, I'm sorry. So let's start things off with number 7, and I am putting the Election arc here. Now, once again, I don't think there is one bad arc of Hunter x Hunter, and I'm not saying the Election arc is bad. It just has the rotten luck of being a very solid arc that is surrounded by much better ones. And I think the thing that I love about the Election arc to begin with is Killua's storyline, because it's the first time he was really put in the leading role. Since Gon is out of commission, and a lot of the story focuses on Killua and him finally resolving a lot of the issues he had with his family, his relationship with Illumi, and being able to stand on his own 2 feet and protect his sister. I also love on the other side of the arc the return of Leorio and giving him perhaps the single greatest moment in the entire series, being able to punch Jean in his big old stupid face. And I also love that that act of Leorio acting out and just being himself inadvertently gives him one of the top candidate spots for the next Hunter chairman, which I think is hilarious. Being introduced to the Zodiacs was also really cool, but to be honest, a lot of them were kind of underwhelming, other than Jean and Pariston, of course, and I do hope we get to see a lot more of their dynamic moving forward in the rest of the manga. At number 6, I'm going to put Greed Island. Again, Greed Island is great, it's just surrounded by things that I think are better overall. But Greed Island does have what I think are some of the highest peaks in the entire manga. This includes the fight between Gon and Genthru, and of course, the dodgeball match. The most intense life or death game of dodgeball I have ever seen, and it was such a fun and creative idea, and I really like that it was a battle that got to be something other than just a straight up fight. There's so much creativity on display in this arc, but there's also a lot of moments that, because it's very exposition heavy, and also works as a training arc, and includes all of this new set of rules with how the card game works, sometimes it can feel a little bit overwhelming. So because of that, and also it's sandwiched in between, I think, 2 of the best arcs of the whole series, it kind of gets a little bit lost in the shuffle, no pun intended, but I also think it's a very solid arc, and I love the creativity that's on display. For my number 5, I'm going to put Heaven's Arena. A really cool spin on the tournament style arc where Togashi made it into a way to explain and expand upon the power system of Nen, and use the tournament setting as a training ground for the characters as opposed to be the main focus just being the fights. It's the first time that we see Hisoka use his bungee gum, which of course has the properties of both rubber and gum if you guys didn't know, And of course, it all culminated with Gon versus Hisoka, which is great for so many reasons. Not just the subversion of expectations by having a big fight between these two happen so early on in the series, but also at this point, Gon is absolutely no match for Hisoka, but this fight is not about Gon winning. It was simply about Gon wanting to prove that if he wanted to, if he fought his hardest, that he could land a legitimate blow on Hisoka, and he accomplishes this. It's progress for the character, it's not meant about winning, and there's something about that I really enjoy. Also, we got this legendary scene out of it.
Those eyes, that look, that spirit.
At number 4, and this is just for right now, I'm putting the current Succession War arc. Now, this one is very hard to rank because it's still ongoing, so there's no way to legitimately compare it to the rest. I don't even know how far into the arc we are, I don't know how it will resolve itself, so this could really go up or down depending on where it goes, but I'm placing it at number 4 right now because I have confidence in this arc sticking the landing and moving up even further by the end of it. It's absolutely the most ambitious arc that Togashi has ever done, filled with so many characters, so many moving pieces, and so many potentials for disaster. 14 princes battling subtly using Nen beasts on a boat that's headed towards the Dark Continent, including mafia groups, the Phantom Troop, bodyguards, and bringing back Kurapika and placing him in a leading role that constantly tests his convictions, along with yet another 10 out of 10 villain in Serenich, who seems to be one of the most terrifying characters that Togashi has ever come up with, and I just cannot wait for this manga to finally continue and see what happens in the rest of this story. So at number 3, I'm going to put the Hunter exam arc, and this might be the most controversial one on my list because a lot of people say that this arc is boring. It's the first arc of the series, and it lays the groundwork of who the main characters are, what the hunters are, and how difficult it is to become one. But there is something very nostalgic and charming about this arc that every time I think about it or go back to it, I just have a giant smile on my face. Maybe it's the innocence of it. Maybe it's just seeing Gon, Killua, Leorio, and Kurapika meet for the first time and interact together. Maybe it's because I like all of the traps and puzzles that they have to overcome. I can't really explain what it is, but the entire first arc just fills me with absolute joy, and I love revisiting it every time. At my number 2, and this was very tough to rank, but number 2 is going to be York New City. To me, this is where HunterXHunter became a 10 out of 10 anime when I first watched it. After getting all the setup that you need of the world in the first arc and the explanations of Nen in the second arc, the third arc just throws you into the absolute intensity of what all of that has to offer. Bringing in the Phantom Troop and seeing the camaraderie and devastating abilities that they have, from just the bizarre and nuanced personality of Crollo, to seeing Kurapika try to navigate his way through finding the truth and dealing with the fact of facing his past. The entire mafia setup and this Godfather-esque feeling to it all, as well as having some of the most intense moments of the entire manga featured here too. York New City is where everything feels like it really comes together for the first time and still has this feeling of this is what HunterXHunter is all about. And finally, at number 1, and you probably guessed it, the Chimera Ant arc. The longest so far and the most dynamic arc of the series. I once heard somebody say that the Chimera Ant arc feels like an anime within an anime, and that's kind of correct, because it really branches off from everything that HunterXHunter did up until that point, and you'll either love it or hate it for that. Introducing the first global threat of the series, but also tying it in with all of these allegories of the best and darkest sides of humanity and what that means. What would happen if a highly evolved species could take the number 1 spot of the food chain away from us? It gives you parallel stories of Meruem, perhaps the best antagonist that Togashi has ever written, destined to rule the world and finding his own inner humanity and peace with what he truly values in this world. Up against Gon's story of descending into darkness, showcasing the true dangers of that happy-go-lucky, throw caution into the wind style shonen protagonist. The symbolism of the poor man's rose explosion and humanity's proclivity to advancement in technology that is deadly and destructive for everyone. This potential for good and darkness within everybody, and the humanity in the ants compared to the depravity in the humans. There is just so much to love here, and though it does have a few moments where it gets a little bogged down within itself, it sticks the landing so goddamn well that it's hard to argue that this arc is anything but a masterpiece. And so there you have it, guys. That is my definitive list of ranking the Hunter x Hunter arcs. I love them all, but that's how I would place them side by side. So let me know how you would rank them down below in the comments. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up and some interaction, because that will help it be seen better in the algorithm. And if you guys want to, you guys can check the links in the description below for my Patreon and merch store if you'd like to support the channel on that deeper level, as well as various social media links where you can follow me. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.